Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Commission on Police Practices. Hello. Thank you for joining us on June 5th, 2024. All right, so just want to welcome everyone. Can we go ahead and do roll call, Ms. Condi?
Yes, okay, I'll go ahead and begin the roll call of the commission. We have Chair Gloria Tran. Thank you. First Vice Chair Dennis Brown. Second Vice Chair Doug Case. Commissioner Aguilar is excused, you're right, thank you. Commissioner Armentrout. Thank you. Commissioner Benitez. Commissioner Byer. Commissioner Kansen is also excused. Commissioner Chatsky. Commissioner Diaz is not here yet. Commissioner Flores is also not here yet. Commissioner Griffin Jones is excused. Commissioner Harvey is not here yet. Commissioner Hilbert. Thank you. Commissioner Justice is here. Thank you. Commissioner Mendoza. Commissioner Molmat. Thank you. Commissioner Honore. Commissioner Rodriguez. And Commissioner Rubio is not here yet. And I'll move on to the Ad Hoc Personnel Committee roll call. We have First Vice Chair, First Vice Chair Dennis Brown. I was gonna say Committee Chair, my apologies. Thank you. Commissioner Honore, Commissioner Justice, and Commissioner Molmat. Thank you. That concludes roll call.
Thank you so much, Ms. Condi. On to the cabinet or chair reports. I'm excited to share that we have started the process of hiring for a policy advisor and 2 investigators. Woohoo! The application process is now open for the investigators, and the policy advisor application process opens on Friday. The application opens on Friday. So if any member of the public is interested in applying, the information can be found on the Commission on Police Practices website. There's a little button that says careers. The application deadline is June 21st, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. The cabinet met with new police chief Scott Wall, who officially takes office on Friday. Among the issues addressed during our 2.5-hour discussion were open communication. We plan to be open and honest with each other and communicate issues that the commission takes up and hears from the community. And we invited him to bring any concerns directly to us. He told us that he or a high-ranking member of his leadership team will attend community hearings, including the one on pretext stops. He said the only reason he personally would not attend is if he had a previous commitment, but we're trying to get the dates to him early. So we told him he was welcome to attend a CPP meeting to introduce himself to the commission and to take questions and talk to the community and to let us know his schedule, what that will allow for him to attend, and we can put on the agenda. We asked for a specific liaison to the department other than the internal affairs captain, as we already work with him on cases and he has a lot on his plate. We use the example of the pursuit records that we requested that Captain Peterson said he had to research himself due to lack of staff. So Chief Wall seems to be open to that idea. He agreed to have an appropriate member of the department attend our standing policy committee meeting once the committee is formed. And the cabinet and executive director will continue our bi-monthly meetings with the chief once he takes office. So we thank Chief Wall for his time and look forward to a positive working relationship so we can fulfill the CPP mission of making the community safer for residents and officers. At this point, our community hearing on pretext stops is scheduled for Wednesday, August 7th at 6 p.m. at the George Stevens Recreation Center. We will share more information with the community, but we hope you save the date. The staff is in the process of purchasing 2 bulletproof vests for commissioners' use when they do ride-along. Thank you to Ms. Condi for researching this and finding the best product. We should have them available by the end of the month, and the staff will send out information about the procedure for borrowing them when you have a ride-along. And last but not least, the recognition event honoring former Community Review Board on Police Practices members will be held on Wednesday, June 26th at 5 p.m. at the CPP offices. You will get an email invitation And this is strictly a social event, so there is no quorum issue. However, commissioners cannot discuss CPP business. And that's it for now. So, oh, sure. You want me to repeat the whole thing? I'm like, no. All right, the date, August 7th. It's our regular meeting, but the second half, like we did the pursuits, will be the community hearing to give the community enough time to attend. And then the recognition event is June 26th at 5 p.m. down at our OCPP offices on B Street. They're beautiful in case you haven't seen them. Oh my gosh. I want to live there. It is not the office that was changed due to disability issues. So it is now the George Stevens Recreation Center, and we'll send out more information for that. So, okay. Thank you. Do we have any non-agenda public comment? Ms. Obi?
Thank you, Chair. We have no in-person non-agenda public comment. If you are joining us virtually and would like to speak, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature on the Zoom now. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. And I seem to have overlooked the approval of the meeting minutes. So are there any opposed change, suggested changes to the meetings as minutes as they were sent out? I think that was Commissioner Justice move for approval. Do I have a second? Commissioner Rodriguez, any discussion? Okay.
I was violating all procedures. So the nominating committee report number 10. D, it says that the membership of that committee is Benitez, Rodriguez, and Harvey. It's actually Benitez, me, and Harvey.
Thank you. Any other changes? All right, Commissioner Justice, do you want to accept those changes in your motion? Commissioner Rodriguez, are you okay with that? Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on to the Police Pursuit Ad Hoc Committee. Second Vice Chair Case.
I'll give a very brief report. Since our last meeting, we had a chance to look at the data that was given to us by the police department, and one of our interns, Joseph Comstock, has begun going through the written reports of the pursuits. We have 5 years worth. He got through 1 quarter of 1 year, but he's kind of set a template of what to look for in those. It took him about 2.5 hours to get through that 1 quarter. So it'll take a little bit, a little bit longer to get through all those because he has to look at them one by one. We also requested from the CHP their data and requested it for a similar period, and we requested it for 12 departments. And we received the data today, and it's in the form of a giant spreadsheet. We asked for it for the SDPD, SD Sheriff's Department, and 10 large departments in California. It looks like the spreadsheet, from what I can tell in a brief glance at it, includes the entire state. And so we probably are going to have to segregate that. But at least it's in a format where it'll be somewhat easier to do a data analysis because everything is in an Excel spreadsheet. So we're moving forward with that. Commissioner Rodriguez looked at the materials provided regarding training and had several questions, including asking whether she could personally review and go through the annual refresher training that they do. And the memo was sent to the department like last Friday. And so we're waiting for a response from that. And so that basically is what I have to report for this week.
Before we have discussion, is there any public comment on this item, Ms. Obi?
Thank you, Chair. We have no in-person public comment. If you are joining us virtually and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now using the raise hand feature on Zoom. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Any discussion on this item? Commissioner Molnat?
I just have a question on the data. What type of analysis is planned? And what type of tools will be used to do it? And does the commission have the tools needed to accomplish that?
That's something that we're in the process of looking at. And so we're waiting to get the data to see what it looks like before we decide what our strategy is going to be to look at the CHP data. And we decided that criteria or issues we're looking at for the SDPD data, and it includes time of day that it occurred. A key thing was what initiated the pursuit, whether it resulted in a collision, what the speeds were, and in what division it occurred, what part of town. And I think there were a couple of other factors we were looking at, but we narrowed down the factors we're looking at, and then we'll also do some cross tabs of that information. And the good thing about the CHP data is it'd be fairly easy to do some cross tabs because everything is in an Excel sheet and so forth. But beyond that, we haven't really determined analysis strategy until we saw what the data itself looked like.
We're also looking at the divisions that have most of the pursuit. I think our paralegal Joseph Comstock is looking at that, part of the information we got from the department. So that's part of it too. From my point of view, I think the initiation aspect is a big part of that. Why was it started? And I know they're looking at all kinds of departments in California. Are you looking nationwide as well on what are the criteria for their initiation of pursuit?
Yeah, but we're going to look at the 4 departments in California and 4 outside of California. But we decided to look at the policies of all 12 of the 8, well, I guess it's 10 other agencies in California, and then 4 comparable sized departments outside of California.
Any other questions, discussions, anything else? Yes, Commissioner Diaz.
I would like to see not just descriptive data, like where it says frequency and how many numbers of collisions or injuries. I'd like to see some kind of confidence interval, like analysis that is true scientific analysis, to see if there is a true association with the policies in place, which takes time to do because you need a professional to do that. I understand, but I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit shaky today. I'm getting over some allergies. So that's what I would like to see. A graduate student would love to take this on as a project, you know, and I know we're in a timetable, but I really feel that we need to have some credibility and be scientific about it because, as you know, frequencies can happen out of chance sometimes. So you want to prove that it is not by chance, and that's why scientific analysis, like confidence intervals, odd ratios, that's what I learned in grad school. So if you could maybe get an intern that's in grad school, criminal justice, in that department to do a thesis that they're doing a master's project, or because I did a master's project, which was part of a PhD study when I was in nursing in midwifery school. Sorry, I'm a little shaky today. I had a really stressful day. I'm sorry. So that's all I wanted to reiterate, because I think credibility is huge. And if we're going to report statistics that are by chance, possibly by chance, maybe not, but we really want to dig into that data, because you can collect as much data as you want, but if you don't know, if you don't analyze it correctly, you know, because it could happen by chance, you know, and that's what research does, you know. And I know this is not randomized, but it, you know, comparison, which is like frequency tables, and you could do that in an Excel sheet for sure, but you also need to apply statistical analysis, see if there's a clear association, you know, and of course, policy review is important too, you know, to compare and contrast what other people are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Scarborough writing down your notes, so she'll be following up on that. And we did, the cabinet met with the ad hoc committee, and we did talk to Mr. Bennett, as we had said we would during the ad hoc committee when we spoke with you all. Second Vice Chair Case can fill you in on that discussion, which I think was very productive. And yeah. No, when we met with Mr. Bennett, then he'll fill you in. That way you guys all know. We're trying to balance having excellent data and recommendations. And then we also want the community to know that we have not forgotten about this issue and that we are working hard on it. And the recommendations that we do eventually present will be well thought out, well researched, and hopefully the police department will be open to hearing them. So I just want that out there for everyone to know. We have an amazing ad hoc committee. I want to thank them all, especially Second Vice Chair Case, Commissioner Rodriguez, Commissioner Flores, Commissioner Diaz, Commissioner Hilpert, and I think, did I forget anyone? Okay, thank you. So any more discussion?
I forgot to ask, what's the timeline like for doing things? I know it's volunteers and all of that, but I was just curious what we're striving for.
That's under discussion right now. We had put out a date of July 17th, excuse me. However, we understand with getting data late and analysis that's going to be discussed. So at that, we will either present a report or an interim report or something so that we can share what we've been doing. And that's something that Second Vice Chair Case is going to discuss with his ad hoc committee. So we are trying to get it within a reasonable amount of time without scrimping and cutting corners. So it's a balancing act. And so we're working on that. It's not definite yet. So, but that gives you an idea of the first type of presentation is what we're striving for. Does that help? Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the San Diego Police Protest Policy from Commissioner Hilpert.
So as a follow-up to our last meeting where we kind of went over what our previous recommendations were, I did get some community feedback. Yusuf Miller did send me an email, so I kind of addressed those. The two issues he had really were kind of not necessary, and obviously not necessary, but they were already being addressed. So one of his concerns was that he didn't want, actually I can pull up his email real quick, but he had a concern about kind of future protests, and then he disagreed with having officers being able to cover their name tag. And then it was the pre-event planning was his other concern, that not be a requirement, which it's not for the policy. The other thing I did is Kate Yavendetti had mentioned that MOGO and ACLU had sent a memo with recommendations to the police department. I did get a copy of that, and as well as the department's response back. I'm sorry. Moral governance. It's the Alliance for Moral Governance. Anyway, it's Genevieve Jones Wright's group. She's the executive director of. I was way off. Community Advocates for Just and Moral Governance. Thank you. So I did ask, we did follow up with the police department because they did ask some follow-up questions, but we don't have any copies of that. So we did request a response from the department on if they've replied. To date, I don't believe they've responded. Is that still correct? Yep, they have not yet responded. So I did reach out to the MOGO, to Genevieve. She got back to me earlier this morning. She asked to get a copy of that just to make sure she's kind of going from the same thing. But what I decided to do, you have 10 kind of recommendations and re-recommendations in front of you. So what I did is I pulled some of the pieces that I thought were probably the most helpful from the ACLU MOGO email, and then I included some of the other ones we have. We wanted to kind of bring this back to the full commission, have some quick discussion on it, and then we could figure out if we wanted to make some re-recommendations. I think the idea from the cabinet was that once we have our discussion today, I can go back, I can work on writing a new memo, and then I'll bring it back to our following meeting, and then we can approve that, and then we can have the cabinet send that out. So if you look at the document, what I try to do is so you can kind of see who gets credit for the recommendation. ACLU for the first one, they wanted to define what a peaceful protester is. For dispersal orders, this was kind of a combination of hours. The current procedure has two different standards and they're slightly different. We wanted to ask them to clarify that they're using the California legal standard, which is California law, and then versus SDPD's procedure. The San Diego Police Department basically said that they were obviously going with theirs, which is more strict, but we wanted to be clear that that's clearly what the issue is. For ACLU, they wanted to clarify what a dispersal technique is. And then number 4 was enhance the definition of what an unlawful assembly is to include the current case law. They basically pointed out that the statute says that it needs to be, which are assemblies which are violence or which pose a clear and present danger of imminent violence. That's not currently in the SDPD procedure, so that I thought that was a good idea to add. Another thing that ACLU had was under planning for the First Amendment activities, they wanted to delete whether previous events had worked with the department and whether or not those events were lawful. They pointed out, which I agree, is that that's irrelevant. Each protest needs to be looked at on its own merits. And whether or not something was lawful or unlawful prior shouldn't dictate how they move forward on protest activities going forward. Re-recommending, this is for us, for the CBP, what legal observers are and that they should not specifically be targeted. Number 7 was reiterate that OC spray is prohibited during passive resistance. That was our recommendation number 9. And then the ACLU in their document, they had an example from Philadelphia that said expressly prohibits the use of chemical weapons and kinetic energy munitions by any member of the department on any individual engaging in First Amendment activities. I think that's pretty much in line with what the CBP had proposed, but I think Philadelphia words it better. One of the things that we did hear when the chief said he was willing to reconsider writing IDs on flex cuffs. We have a new chief now, but I mean, the previous chief didn't remember that one. So he said he would reconsider that one. The other idea that we had that we've heard a lot back and community members talked about was requiring names, not just ID numbers. So re-recommending that. And then one of the other things we did hear back, Commissioner Momat had sent me an email and I responded with some of the answers. One of them, she was asking questions about specialty munition, how they're used, and the order in which that they are escalated, which is kind of a re-recommendation of our recommendation number 10. So high level, those were kind of the 10 that I was thinking we may want to consider re-recommending. And so I wanted to open it up to community members and the commission to ask questions, provide feedback, guidance, new recommendations, anything like that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking this on, Commissioner Hilbert. Ms. Obi, do we have any public comment on this before we open it up to the commissioners?
Thank you, Chair. We have no in-person public participation. If you are joining us virtually and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now using the raise hand feature on the Zoom. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any Commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Armentrout.
2 questions on number 4, and I'm sorry I haven't read this yet, so I'm coming in a little blind. Who gets to decide if it's violent or poses clear danger of imminent violence? And then it seems that 7 is overly restrictive, like can't use pepper spray at any protest, or is there a change between a First Amendment activity that turns violent is no longer a First Amendment activity, so you can use OC or pepper?
Yeah, so for number 4, I think it's really essentially the police make the determination on when a protest becomes unlawful. They declare an unlawful assembly. So it's basically the incident commander that would be on scene that would be responsible for doing that. For number 7, you know, as I mentioned in our meeting last time, I think many of us will probably remember the UC Davis protest where you had an officer just walking up and down, spraying people with OC spray when they were just sitting peacefully. That's, I think, what we were trying to recommend against here. So we could work on the verbiage there. And I think obviously, no matter what we recommend, the police department will probably soften it a little bit to give them a little bit more flexibility. But I think the idea is if you have individuals that are protesting peacefully, even if they're perhaps blocking streets, that, you know, I think I would certainly say, and I think the previous commission, when we made these recommendations, felt that that would be an inappropriate use for OC spray. Now, if it obviously goes to something that's unlawful or it becomes violent, that's obviously a different situation where I think the existing policies would still allow that.
I had a question as a commissioner. On the right ID numbers on Flex Cup, I get that, but if it's a chaotic situation, that might be prohibitive because are you going to pull out a Sharpie and where is that Sharpie and there's 5 other people and that's all I'm saying. Realistically, I would love to see it happen, but realistically in a chaotic situation, I just wanted to kind of mention that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think that's why when we made recommendations, it's if we don't ask, we'll never get it. But I mean, I think also, you know, even if it was whoever takes that person into detention or, you know, perhaps when they go into, you know, the prisoner transport van, you know, there's, I think, different ways that can happen. You know, our recommendation was, we thought this would be a good idea. And I think it's up to the department to either push back or come up with a feasible solution that they felt would.
Commissioner Byer?
They could mark them ahead of time. The officers could mark them ahead of time, so they're marked when they get there.
That actually is a good idea, I think. Yes, Commissioner Case, did you, or first, second Vice Chair Case, did you have your hand up? Whoever you are.
I did, yes.
I apologize.
Well, actually, I think that's what the intent was on the Flex Cup, so they would fight it in advance, not during the incident itself. And despite the department's response last time, I would like to continue to press for having their name badges during protests to include their name. I thought that the suggestion, well, they can use a cell phone is kind of ludicrous. You know, if somebody is using force on you, you're not going to take out your cell phone and take a picture of so you can get their number. And I think it's important the public be able to identify the police officers who are involved in incidents. I think the statement that their officers are being doxxed is exaggerated and is probably limited to a limited number of officers during the height of the George Floyd protest, where they were actually protesting the police rather than protesting something else. Regardless, I think it's important that their name be on their name badges.
Just going back to the Flex Cups, can we add maybe, you know, writing, for example, writing them in advance? Does that put it in a different perspective for me and clarified a lot? So that just might be an idea because that makes sense. Anybody else? Oh, I thought I saw him. Yes, Commissioner Chatsky.
Maybe this is a little overboard, but I was thinking since gunpowder has particles that distinctly I can identify like what gun shot what bullet. The gloves that police always don before they engage in physical altercations or whatever, a lot of those gloves are powdered, well, can be powdered, latex gloves. Okay, nitrile. Well, anyway, I was just thinking maybe there's some identification powder that could be embedded in the gloves too. Sounds outlandish to me, but it would aid in the identification and alleviating the need to jot certain things down. And if several officers lay hands on, they all could be identified.
Go ahead.
not sure the feasibility of that. And maybe I just need more information on that. That seems a little logistically complicated and perhaps expensive, but I don't fully know the suggestion, I guess.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Flores. Hi, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wondering if, so when we heard from, the chief about these protests, we knew that there was protesters that were calling and they were being, told that they were not able to work with the SDPD or make a report because they're not in charge of the scene. It's a different jurisdiction. I would say that it'd be worthwhile to have them take a report regardless of the incidents and not, put these protesters in a position where they have no one to report anything to. And my understanding is that in these protests, calling 911 is going to do nothing from what I gathered. But the policy should allow for a report to be taken regardless in these instances, given jurisdiction or not. Yeah, because I thought that was the issue as well, where they couldn't call anyone.
I don't recall that. Commissioner Hilbert, do you recall that? And anyway, when you call 911, it routes it to whichever agency is responsible. Right. So if, let's say it's at UCSD, since it's California is state property, would it route it to CHP or UCSD police? Is that your point?
Yeah.
I think part of it is, that's also a different procedure on complaints. And I think there are several ways people can file complaints. And even like, for example, if we receive a complaint and it's not within our jurisdiction, we will forward it to the proper people. So for example, someone files a complaint about, a sheriff or the jail, and they send it to us, we'll then forward it to CLERB or the sheriff's department. So most other agencies, I believe, would do the same thing. So I haven't heard of that being a problem. I suppose it could be, but I think most agencies, if they get something that's not them, I think they're probably more than willing to take it to the correct people so that it can be investigated by that specific agency. So I don't think that's something we'd have to add here, but if anything, that'd be a recommendation for maybe updating the complaints procedure.
Yes.
I also would like to continue to pursue the concept of legal observers. And the department's response was there's nothing in the post guidelines that talks about that, so we're not going to include it. But I know that in other jurisdictions, I'm not sure within California, but there are other places where they actually have some very specific procedures for legal observers. And I know that there's even some oversight agencies that do legal observing themselves. So it might be worth looking to see if you could find some other agencies that have references to legal observers, so we can give them, a sample of how they might go about doing that. If they can provide for accommodations for the media, they certainly can provide for accommodations for legal observers.
Yeah, thanks. I was gonna say, I think that was one of the recommendations we made. And I personally was a little disheartened to see that the department's response was, well, we don't see anything posted, so we're not going to move forward. I would like to see SDPD be proactive and perhaps sometimes come up with maybe the first in the state policies. I think we can lead in this area. I think that's exactly one of the areas where I think it makes sense for us to try to create something that makes goodwill for legal observers and, First Amendment activities everywhere. I agree. I'll put that in there.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
I want to go back to requiring names and not ID number only. I kind of want to understand what's the reason for, do we know the reason for not requiring the names and what would be the benefits of including them?
Well, they claimed, the chief, when he came, claimed that they become targets because people learn their names. And so they go and protest at their homes or whatever. However, thinking about putting them on, it's easier to remember Rodriguez or Flores or Chatsky than 12435, their badge number. So it's easier if you want to file a complaint, you go, Commissioner Fran or whatever. So that was the thought. It's easier to remember a name than it is to remember in the chaos a number. And I don't, or are they 4 or 5? How long are the badge numbers? 4 or 5? 4, you know, so that's more difficult. So that was the reasoning behind that. But the police department, according to the chief, pushed back because of claims that officers get tracked down at their homes and get followed and, as he said, doxxed. Any other, yes, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
Sorry, one more thing about that is, one of my close friends grew up in a household, her father was an LAPD officer, and their information where they live was always removed from everywhere. And so, yeah, this was the one thing that in that discussion that seemed the most unreasonable, and that is, if you're a police officer and you're conducting yourself, whether it's a protest or anywhere else, you should be identified by your name and your badge number, period. It was completely illogical. It was, anyway, but I'm pretty sure that, yes, their information is not, we can all be found. It's protected information, yes.
All right, one more comment and then we have to wrap it up. Mr. Chastity.
I want to just refine that. The part about identifiability and powders that have identifying particles. I think that if an officer feels responsible or will be identifiable by use of pepper spray that has an identical particle in it, or whatever, or the gloves seem kind of far out, but there are other things that accountability may improve behavior. And so it kind of solves two problems: preventing it and then identifying it.
Yeah, I guess maybe I just don't fully understand. So you're thinking that there's like some kind of powder that would be applied to each individual officer's gloves? I mean, I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
That doesn't seem very practical, but a powder in red peppers, cayenne spray, does seem pretty doable.
Because we need to wrap this up, could I ask you to email Commissioner Hilpert more of an expanded information? That would be helpful, and that way he can look at it and evaluate whether that might work. Okay, at this point, Commissioner Hilpert, do you have enough information to go back and put recommendations together for next meeting?
Yeah, I'll take the feedback and I'll try to do a little bit more research, especially on the legal observers piece. And then I will draft a preliminary letter that then the commission can then review, edit, and then if approved, the commission can send it out. So I'll have it for next meeting.
Would you have it ready by the time the agenda goes out? Thank you. Okay, so we'll send it out with the agenda. Thank you, by the way, for all the work on this, because I know you're taking it up solo, which leads us to our next agenda item. So as far as the policy committee, hold on. There was a recommendation last meeting to do an ad hoc policy committee. The cabinet discussed it, and since we have a number of ad hoc committees and we don't want to spread commissioners too thin between case review, which we want to stay up to date on what we're doing case review, we thought that it might be better, since we're going to at the offices, if you like, have more of a meeting, let the public know, and put out the minutes, because honestly, no one here has time to do that at this point. And we're trying to be as reasonable as possible without stretching everybody too thin. And we already know, I've had a city council office say this is the most laborious commission on as far as volunteer time of all the commissions they have. And I appreciate everyone's time, and they do too. So, is there any public comment on this item before we start the discussion? So,
We have no in-person public comment. Our sound was cut out for a little bit. And just for the public's knowledge, we are now on policy committee. Item 9. comment? Can you hear me? We have no in-person public comment. If you are joining us virtually and would like to speak on item 9, please raise your hand now. Thank you for letting us know that our sound was cut out for a moment.
Yeah, we're back on.
This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on what we talked about? Of course, Commissioner Benitez.
Quick question about the Brown Act and whether we would need to, I know that
Last meeting, we had a request to put forming a policy committee, ad hoc policy committee on the agenda.
It's out again. It's is it?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn my sound off and then use Johnny's. Bye.
We have paused. We'll reconnect shortly. Thank you.
So, you know, here, the audio back for those watching online. So we cannot continue.
Can you ask the participant if they could hear us now?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, you gotta change it again. Yeah, 1 second. Click this one and then you're gonna click this.
Hello, can you hear me?
There it is. Yeah. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Mr. Miller, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Then we're back on. So,
All right, I'm gonna repeat now can we still be heard? Okay, I'm gonna repeat this really quickly. There was a request to put on an ad hoc policy committee on this agenda. The cabinet discussed it. We thought maybe a standing policy committee would be better since we don't want to spread commissioners too thin. And that one of our first hires would be a policy advisor and who can handle all the Brown Act requirements, meeting in person, agendizing and notifying the public of the meeting and doing the minutes. So that was what we were going to discuss. Now, are there any public comments, Ms. Obi?
We have no in-person public comment. If you're joining us virtually and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now. Go ahead, Mr. Miller, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, this is Yusef Miller, and I was kind of confused on what item we're on now. I was trying to raise my hand, but I wanted to say that identification of officers should be very easy for participants, just in case there is a misconduct in it, so we could identify people. It's not just so we can go to people's houses and things like that. We shouldn't assume that that's the motive of everyone, but we should be able to identify just in case of misconduct. No proper identification leads to a loss of reporting. Thank you.
This concludes public comment for this item.
Thank you. Okay, now we had a question from Commissioner Benitez regarding the Brown Act. We're actually on item number 9, the policy committee. Go ahead, Commissioner Benitez.
my question is about, we're choosing to allow for public access via Zoom. And my understanding is that we don't have to do that, but we're choosing to do that.
So my question is, if we end up having a standing committee, will it have to follow what the entire commission is doing? Or could a standing committee be open to the public but not have to do Zoom? That's my.
I understand the question, Commissioner, and the answer is, yeah, you do not have to afford Zoom. You don't have to do it. So you don't have to do it here, you don't have to do it there, you can choose to do so.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Yes, Ms. Obi.
I would highly recommend that we continue the process of providing Zoom options for public participation. Since that's something many people from the public have encouraged us to do. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Did we want to make a motion? Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we establish a policy committee, and that we begin meeting after we have a policy advisor hired. That's my motion, and I will say that I asked our executive director when she anticipated that would be, and she indicated maybe the first part of August is a reasonable target. So we're basically talking about a 2-month delay. I've been pushing for this too, but I understand the need to have staff to do it correctly. So my motion is to establish a policy committee and have it begin meeting once the policy advisor is hired and on board.
I wanted to clarify that's a standing committee, not an ad hoc committee.
Standing committee. Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Justice had his hand up first. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, we move on to the Ad Hoc Operating Procedures Committee with, again, Ad Hoc Committee Chair Case.
Yeah, but look at tonight, the first one is the case review. And as you may recall, we had a good discussion a month or two ago regarding a case review, and all of the recommendations from this body were incorporated into our draft. I would like to highlight a couple of things from the procedure which may be different or new to our procedures. First, the commission, once these are approved, will be looking at not only investigation reports of complaints, but we'll be looking at investigation reports of all misconduct, including internal reports, which are investigations that are initiated by the department itself rather than by a member of the public. No, I'm just going to give an overview, and then I just want to highlight some things that are new. How a complaint could be investigated as opposed to reviewed. But we already went through, well, part of that is already incorporated into our investigation process policy, but we have a brief reiteration of that here. So that prior to, once receiving the case, the chief investigator and executive director can make a recommendation that we do an investigation, but we also established a process where the reviewers could also, in the process of reviewing, if they see there's a need, they can recommend that there be an investigation. And speaking of reviewers, we came up with that term because we wanted to have some flexibility. So we wanted to be able to have the people that review cases either be commissioners, staff, or a combination of them. And so we, instead of using the term team, we came up with the term reviewer, because it could even be a single staff member or a single commissioner. And that will allow us a lot of flexibility in the future. Keeping in mind, if we make changes to this, we have to go back to the city council and meet it first. We're trying to keep the procedures as general as possible. Yeah, that's included in the policy, and so the vote on the cases are always decided by the commission itself. It's just that the report would be written by the reviewers. we included in here the process, whereby the reviewers can have, discussions with IA prior to their report being written. And in that process, they can ask for clarification. They could suggest that perhaps there be other findings, or perhaps the finding be changed. And the process that, if that doesn't occur in the initial contact with the investigator, they could escalate it to the lieutenant, or even with the cabinet meeting, cabinet meeting with the captain. We have a process for being able to have those communications prior to the case being presented, give the department an opportunity to make changes prior to it being reviewed by the commission, which hopefully would reduce the number of disagreements. But we also put in here that there's also a process where the department, after the commission acts, would also have an opportunity to make revisions to their final report prior to finalizing it. And we also put in writing in this document that the department does not close a case until it has gone through the CPP process, which has always been the way it's worked here in San Diego. That's not how it works in many other jurisdictions. So we wanted to make sure that that was put into writing. We have a process of how we communicate our findings to internal affairs, and which is kind of putting in writing what our current procedure is. And then finally, it's putting in writing a process which the former CRB established, but had to pause during COVID, and that was to create redacted case summaries of each case. And so you'll see group folders for those who are doing case review. There is a template that was created for that, and it basically entails a very brief description of each case without any identifiable information like the officer's name, where the incident occurred, what the date was, just basically the facts of the incident and what the findings were and what the commission's findings were and the rationale for that. And that would then be published as part of our semi-annual report and also put onto our webpage after being reviewed by legal counsel from both our legal counsel and sent to the department so that legal counsel can review as well to make sure there's no full bar violations. That was an agreement we had made with the department and the POA prior to COVID putting a pause to that. So this is reinstituting that and putting it writing in the procedure. And that basically is it, unless people have other questions, but basically it's a continuation of what we're doing now with some modifications and additions.
Before we start the discussion, is there any public comment on specifically the case review process draft?
We have no in-person attendees. If you're joining us virtually and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now using the feature on the Zoom. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for you. At the end where you say we're authorized to refer any matter to the grand jury, district attorney, governmental agency, do we need a process for that? Or is that just a letter recommending that we think this is so egregious or something to that effect?
Yeah, we just require a vote of the commission. And so I don't think we need a process. I think the commission, by a vote of the commission, could decide to send a letter to any of those entities.
Can we please add that as just a sentence, in order to do this, we would send a letter to any agency and that would require a vote of the full commission. Is that a possibility, just to clarify? My thought was like, how do we do this? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm assuming it simply would be a vote of the, by a vote of the commission.
Yeah, something to that effect, yeah. Okay, and there were a couple of minor, grammar and things I was gonna give them to Danelle, or do you want?
What is to send them,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, the paragraph on page 3 that starts the viewers may. It's reports to set forth a procedure where we can contact IA when we have questions. The first sentence is fine. The second sentence says questions should be sent via a form developed by the Office of the Commission. We've had that form for several months now. It doesn't work. Not only does it not work, it's a complete waste of time. When you send that form in, SCPD responds when it feels like responding. Frequently they'll respond and there'll be written words there, but they either don't make sense, they don't answer the question, or they prompt more questions. So I would suggest delete that sentence that we have to use the form because it limits the commissioners too much. It would be much better if the commissioners themselves could decide if they want to call IA or pop in down there and talk to the investigator directly.
I guess I would suggest that we continue to do it in writing. That was actually a option that the former CRB did because the CRB actually did their reviews in internal affairs, and so the investigators frequently on duty. And instead of writing out the question, we could say so and so here, and so we could come to the room and we could ask those questions. I guess my suggestion would be that we continue to put them in writing. And my experience has been with my review team that we get a response within a couple of days unless the person is out of the office. I wouldn't be opposed, well. Yeah, it doesn't preclude it, but maybe, let me see. Just-
But while you're reading that, Doug, I would say it would be nice if the language was flexible enough that there can be some give and take, because I do
Right.
think the process that we have now, I've found the response pretty darn quick, but sometimes the response is very unsatisfying, and so then you need to go back to them again, you know?
Yeah, if you will allow me to work on some language for that, but still request that the initial questions be in writing and then allow for follow-up discussion with the investigator himself or herself prior to escalating it to higher.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't, but anyway, the next sentence says that it puts the power in the SDPD's hand again to control the timing, as it says, if we want, it says if we want follow-up questions after we get their response, or if we have more questions after we get their response, well, we can't control when they respond. So they could respond a week, a month, 2 months, and then we, according to our own policy, we can't do anything until we get their response. I think we should remove that little clause there that gives them the power to decide when we get to ask further questions.
How are you suggesting that we reword that then? Maybe just take out after receiving the response from the IA investigator?
Yes.
Okay, we are on page 3, the second large paragraph, and we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line. And so we suggested saying if reviewers desire additional communication, they may request a meeting with the IA. We're just gonna take out that phrase there. And then I'll work on some language to indicate that in addition to making the written or maybe make it more flexible so that you can submit your questions in writing and or communication with the investigator.
Yeah, I'm luckier than most of you because I'm not burdened with full-time work or family obligations. So I can actually just go down there and visit them if the commission or if the cabinet allowed me to do so. And I would prefer that approach because what I've noticed in my ride-alongs is that the police officers I'm with, they may not trust me fully because I'm an outsider, but they're much more forthcoming. And I can ask follow-up questions to their face. And if I approach it in a non-confrontational, collaborative way, it's quicker and gets better results in my view. And thank you.
Olga, can you please put that on our IA meeting notes and ask how we can do that? Let's not ask if, but how we can go about doing that? Okay.
And I will say, I agree, that's frequently how we did it in the past, was that the team would meet with the investigator because the investigator was there and we had dialogue back and forth, and you're right, it's much more efficient than using a written communication. So I'll rewrite that so it could be done either through written questions or through personal communication.
Thank you. Commissioner Armentrout.
This could be new guy questions, but two of them. Sending a letter to the complainant that says how we, our findings. First of all, it says shall send a letter. Hopefully we do that. I would love if we provide feedback to the complainants, but many times, at least in the cases I've seen, there's no email, there's no phone, and there's no address. So shall seems kind of restricted there if we have no way to get it to them. And then do we post the summaries on the website? I haven't seen. Transparency, even.
Yeah, currently are required to, if we have a way, if we have an address, and usually it's an email address. Or actually, we send a written letter. It's the only email address. Each of the complainants is currently, and no, they are not currently on the website. We started writing them, and that's when COVID hit, and so we put everything on hold. And so the goal is to eventually have them on our website, but they're not there now. And by the way, FLIR does put them on their website, and you can look to see what those look like, and that's kind of where we got the idea.
Actually, during closed session, we're going to share our findings letter so everyone can see what it looks like. They are sent in every case after every meeting. So, all right, Commissioner Flores.
So I do like Commissioner Byers' idea, but I just was wondering if that was to be like an interview type situation, would it be something where we could record those conversations and have transcripts of like those like answers and those, I mean, because I know that the email would give us more information. I'm seeing your answer through your facial move, but I mean, it just seems reasonable to that.
No, nice try, Commissioner. I get you. No, I get you. No, that's gonna be a non-starter. First of all, in California, you have to have both parties participate, but you would be creating another internal affairs or another personnel file that would have to be shared with the officer, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another, not a good try. Sure. Yeah, you'd be creating, but what would happen, this commission will be creating an entirely new investigative process where an officer would be able to be there and also would have a right to representative. And so that's not anything that you all should be doing. You don't.
Also, this needs to go through meet and confer with the police union, and that may never get through. And I'm gonna leave it to the expert who's done this for 50 years, or, sorry, I'm not aging him, but.
You answered the question. I'm just pushing back because I do like Commissioner Byers' idea, but I think it's gonna be hindered if we don't have a written trail of record, like email. And that, I mean, just the transcripts of a conversation like that would allow for us to have some type of information that can't be altered. Yeah, that too, but that could also not provide all the information sometimes.
All right, we're gonna take a couple more and then vote on just this one procedure. Go ahead, Commissioner Pike.
Thank you for the support. I wouldn't want to do that because in theory, right, we're on the same team as IA. In theory, we all want the most professional law enforcement we have to protect and serve everybody. So if I go to chat with them but they're being recorded. It creates a barrier to communication, so, yeah, I appreciate the support, but I just want to go talk to them. Say, hey, I watched the video and I see this, why'd you do that? You know, without trying to commit them to anything, hold them to anything, just a conversation. Thank you.
And Commissioner, I just want to say one other thing, for the record, former commissioners used to sit there and talk to IE all the time, and they were welcome to push that issue. You're absolutely right, going down, sitting down to them and having a conversation with them is the most efficient way to get the answers to your questions, including what they don't know.
All right, any other discussion or can we have a motion? Okay, second Vice Chair Case.
I'll make a motion that we accept the procedures as distributed with the suggested amendments, which include the grammatical changes that the Commissioner Friend are going to give to us, including that the referral will be by vote. Deleting the phrase after receiving the response from the IA investigator to the paragraph we were just talking about, and changing the sentence regarding communication with the IA investigator to be more flexible. Through written questions and answers and or personal communication with the investigator.
Is Commissioner, second? Okay, second by Commissioner Honore. All right, discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're moving on now to the subpoena procedures.
Next, subpoena procedures, and this is somewhat similar to the fitness motions, in that it's all legalese, and this was written by our outside counsel. We did ask some questions and some changes were made regarding electronic service and electronic responses to subpoenas. But everything that's in this document is in a legal format that was recommended by our outside counsel. And so if you have any questions, you're free to ask our outside counsel.
Okay, first of all, do we have public comment?
I have not received a request to speak on this item. Sam, if you are joining us virtually and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now using the raise hand feature on the Zoom. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Obi. All right, do we have any discussion? I actually have a quick question. There's some places where it says dated by the executive director and signed by the executive director. Since we went through a period where we didn't have an executive director, is there a caveat we can put in such as the chief investigator? I mean, I don't think we should even name specifics, but a staff member or something. You want to do it?
Or his or her designee. The executive director or his or her designee.
But the designee. Yes. Yes, Ms. Owen. Can we add where it says executive director or his or their designee? Can we add that in throughout this process?
No, you can do that. The question would be you want to be as standard as you can, and the person who signs it would have to be somebody with superior authority. So however you all decide that, you know, you can do it, no rule.
Well, that, yes.
I think the reason why it's specifically included executive director is because per the ordinance, only the executive director has the authority to issue subpoenas. Usually if the executive director is absent, they would just designate somebody who can sign subpoenas, and in the signature, it would explain that that's the designee, but in the template, it could still be executive director.
First Vice Chair.
FYI,
we're going to have a deputy executive director, as soon as our executive director is hired. So that person could be that co-signer and designated as such.
So adding designee. I just think adding designee is safe. Because always someone can sign it, if it's an egregious case. And also on page 2, the last sentence before types of subpoenas, is that word not supposed to be there? For an order to show cause why the subpoena recipient should not be ordered to comply. I would think why the executive director would certify the facts on why they should be ordered to comply. Page 2, right here. Is that not?
Yes, should not be, not is correct. Sure, order to show cause, not is correct.
Thank you.
Just reads the.
Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Chapman.
Yes, thank you. Appendix A, there's a subpoena for personal appearance. Appendix A, the subpoena for personal appearance. I think there might be an or that should be added. Let me see. You've been identified. That would be the second full paragraph, second sentence. You have been identified as a person with information, documents, or who might be able to offer information or evidence. I think we might want to say, you've been identified as a person with information or documents, or who might be able to offer information or evidence. But it's
okay.
No big deal, I guess, but it sounds more legalese to me.
Anybody else? All right, do we have a motion about this? Go ahead.
Move that we accept the approved the draft subpoena procedure with the change that in the text itself refers to the executive director with the executive director, whether it is me.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Armentrout, any more discussions? All those in favor? Opposed? How are those two voting behind you? Okay, in favor. Opposed? Abstention? It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so we're about to go into closed session. Oh, Commissioner Armentrout, Malman.
I have a question. I'm just curious about where are we at with the operating procedures now? How many more do we have left to do? How's it going?
We are nearing the goal line. We have 2 more to do. One of them is the charter, the charter and the ordinance gives us the duty to review and evaluate the department's compliance with reporting requirements. And our outside counsel took it upon himself and did an outstanding job of identifying all those reporting requirements, what they include, and how we are to evaluate those. And we're going to look at that at our next meeting. Then the final one has to do with records and retention and so forth. And our staff, I think Alina is helping to work on that. And once we get those approved, we'll complete it and approved, we'll be done and we'll have them ready to send to the city's city council, public safety committee, hopefully sometime in July.
This ad hoc committee did a phenomenal job. Commissioner, second vice chair Case, do you want to point them out again, who your ad hoc committee members are?
First, I want to again recognize our chief investigator who's been indispensable in helping us with this. And Commissioner Honore, And Commissioner Harvey, also have been a member of that committee. And Commissioner Rubio, although she resigned from the committee, but she was on the committee earlier.
Excellent. Great question, Commissioner Walmat. We're gonna head into closed session, but before we do we have any public comment? Ms. Obi?
We have no in-person request to speak on the closed session. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand now using the raise hand feature on the Zoom. This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
All right, so our outside counsel, Mr. Dwayne Bennett, is going to lead the CPP into closed session. I turn it over to Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. There will be a recommended closed session under Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss cases that are deemed confidential under Evidence Code Section 1040 and Penal Code Sections 832.5 through 832.8. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. We will be entering closed session now. So if we can just get ready for that, and we can take a 5-minute break if you like, and we'll start in 5 minutes. I'm setting the timer. Thank you. Thank you. We're coming out of closed session. I turn it over to outside counsel, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The commission may be closed session under Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss confidential cases under Evidence Code Section 1040. Commission gave direction. There's no reportable action. That concludes my closed session report.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. We just have a little bit of time for commissioner comments before we get to them. I am going to, when we honored our interns last week, Mr. Tomas was not here, so if he wouldn't mind coming forward. And I am pleased to announce that he will be attending, drum roll please, UCLA. And we are giving him a commendation for all the hard work he's done for us. Congratulations, Tomas. Run. Okay, and tripping the ball.
Yeah, watch out for wires, they should be taken down.
Neither does tennis. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah. Okay. Get it back. Okay, Commissioner Armentrout went on a ride along recently and wanted to share his experience, so we have a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
All right, good evening. I'm in the Eastern Division on the second watch. There's 3 watches, 10 hours each. It was busy the entire time. We didn't get a food break or a water break or a bathroom break. Constant calls, one to another. We had 5 knife incidences. One was road rage. We had a false burglar alarm. We had a lady who locked herself in a bathroom because the company wouldn't serve her. We had 2 code 3s, which is full lights and sirens. And then I ended a little early because there was a really tragic event where the first call that they got was a 12-year-old not breathing. And the second call was that somebody thought he'd been murdered. And so it was really confusing. It was a chaotic scene. We were first on the scene, and the officer was doing CPR and till the ambulance got there and everything. But so he had his hands full trying to wrap up that investigation. So after about 8.5 hours, I went home. But the important thing that I felt was we had great conversations along the way. We would bring up public events that had happened. We would talk about his perspective and the community. And we were able, I think, to educate each other a little bit on, one, why we're here. One, what they do as a job every day. He'd been on the force for 3.5 years, very professional, educated, great communicator. So it was that time to share perspectives and gain understanding from each other, walk a mile in each other's shoes. It was very, very valuable. At no time did I feel unsafe. I know some folks said, I don't want to do it because the safety issue. We are going to buy vests, I understand. I didn't feel unsafe or the need for one at all. And if there was a stop where I didn't feel comfortable, he said, just stay in the vehicle. So you always have that option. You're just an observer. You're not there to help police at all. But I'm going to do another one. I think it was a fantastic learning experience. I want to do one for each watch and see what they go through at different times of the day and make sure they all try to understand their policies and procedures and everything. But at first, not really accepted, but I think by the end, just being open and talking about, different perspectives, I think we had a really good ride along. Very, very highly recommend it. I'm recommending it to all my friends and neighbors if they go on one, so they understand a little better what the police have to do, walk a mile in their shoes, and you get to know your district, your neighborhood. You see a lot that you didn't know was going on. So recommend it.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your experience. If you do want to do a ride along, just contact Ms. Condi and she can help set you up. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Benitez.
I just wanted to remind everyone that at our next meeting, the nominating committee will be calling attention to the fact that our cabinet is up for election. Their term ends at the end of June. And so depending on your perspective, I'll withhold mine. All 3 members of the cabinet have indicated that they're willing to continue to serve. So, but if anyone wants to run against them, please let us know. It is the 3 of us actually who are the nominating committee. So that's it. So that'll be happening at our next meeting.
Commissioner Byer. And then Justice, and then we need to
I'm also June 30th is the expiration of my 1-year term. I think Dr. Brown and maybe some others are 1-year term people. A few months ago, I got an email from Ella Rivera's office, and I haven't heard anything since. Has the cabinet heard anything about renewing or re-upping or what's going on?
Did you tell them you're interested in renewing? Then you're fine, you're good. No, trust me, because they let us know if people weren't not going to renew, and those are the seats that are open. So if you said, I want to continue, you're good for another year.
No, I'm good for 2 years.
Another 2 years. Thank you. Okay. That'll happen on July 2nd, I see. Okay, Commissioner Justice and then Rubio.
Yeah, so my term expires on June 30th as well. But Council President's office asked me to, if I'd be willing to stay on until they find my replacement. And I agreed to do that, so I'll be here for a little longer.
Thank you. We know that this could be a trying time, so we appreciate that. Okay, Commissioner Rubio is going to wrap us up.
I just want to ask, how do you make nominations for the nominating committee? Like how, like for our.
Just email them.
Okay, sounds good. And then I also want to share that it will also be my last, so at the end of this term, I will also be heading out, but you won't get rid of me, so no worries. I'll still stick around and continue like supporting, of course. So thank you very much.
And can we share why?
I will be traveling abroad to Europe this summer through my studies.
Okay, and we turn it over to Dr. Scarborough.
Very good. Want to remind you that next meeting, June 19th, is a federal, state, and local holiday. We are still going to meet.
Yes.
How about it? Juneteenth, 4:30 to 7:30.
Without our staff?
No, we following rules and regulations. We will all be here, but this building is closed because it is a city facility. So we're meeting in a different location. We're going to be at the Jacobs Center. We'll give you the address, tell you all about it, but all the city facilities are closed. And so we'll be in a different location, but we'll be here. We'll be right there. We'll have the right food for sure. All right, thank you.
Can I also make one last comment?
I'm sorry, what?
I just want to make one last comment. For folks whose term is ending and then for folks who are renewing to their term, I just want to please, empower y'all to look into your community, your immediate circle, folks who are already out there doing amazing things in the community. And don't be scared to nominate them, y'all. So nominate those people in your community, especially if your term is ending. Look for them and nominate them because we need more folks to always be filling these seats. Just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, we're really close to time. Yeah.
I don't pay attention. Actually, my family. Yeah, I won't be here, but we'll be doing some community festivities and stuff during that week. And my family is actually part of the slaves that were freed during that time from Texas, June 19th and stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, so I'll be doing.
Thank you. Okay, we'll be able to mark it and we will respectfully mark that day. So thank you for letting us know. All right, anything else? I am wrapping up this meeting at 7:27. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.